Okay, we are going to be making my mother's recipe for gefilte fish, which I always make for Pesach. And right over here are the things that you're going to need for that are non-foods. So we got the knife, we got a strong mixing spoon, the peeler, cutting board, storage containers for when it's done, this type of food processor with that blade, 2 pots, one for putting the mix into, and one for cooking the gefilte fish. Here's the foods that you're gonna need: carrots, eggs, onions, black pepper, salt, sugar, matzah meal, and you could put in some baking powder a little bit if you want. So the first thing we're gonna do is get the pot ready where we're gonna make the gefilte fish, so that could start to heat up and boil. So I decided to put 4 carrots in, just peeled them, left them whole, and now 2½ handfuls of salt. The handfuls for salt and pepper are smaller than the sugar ones. So I'll go with that one. Very scary when you're looking at the salt, how much it is. But it always comes out good. We're gonna do 2½ handfuls of pepper. And that should be enough. And then sugar, we're going to do about 10 handfuls, and I probably will do a little more. The handfuls of sugar I'm more liberal with. That's 2, 3, 9, 10, I'll do a little more. Okay, and finally, I'm putting in about 3 onions, cut in half. It's just for taste, so put that in. And if you ordered the heads and the bones of the fish that were ground, and that you would put them all into a separate bag, then you would dump that in now also. And then I'm gonna fill this up with about a third way up, because when you put all the balls in, then it ends up filling up. And this is what it looks like so far. And here we have the water in the pot. If we put it down, then it goes till about there. So it's about a third. You could always add more water in if you want, after you put all the gefilte fish in. Alright, and we're gonna preheat this. Put the cover on, and once it comes to boil, we'll turn it down, and in the meantime we'll start to make the gefilte fish. Okay, so now that we have the water boiling right over here, we are going to start with making the fish mixture. So we have 10 onions. They're generally medium-sized onions. It's not so important. Like now I'm using kind of bigger onions than I usually use, and it's okay. You just gotta cut it in a way that it'll go into the food processor well. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Talia. Hi, guys. I'm in the middle of filming. Talia, look. Say hello to the camera. Say hello. Hi. This is Talia. Aaron, if you want to be in it, come here. Don't touch it, okay? Because it's gonna... Here, come here. Here. And here is Kiwi. That's our daughter, Hadassah. She's our second child. She's an amazing mother. And there's a wonderful husband, Zev. And they are just wonderful. The grandchildren call me Chief. You only get to name yourself once in your life, so Chief it is, and Malka's Mama. and they don't know yet that Chief is funny, so they just say it in all seriousness. At some point in school or something, they're gonna, he's just gonna say, "Oh, my Chief said," like, "What do you mean, Chief? Are you Indian?" At that point, they may realize that there's something funny, but so far so good. Okay, now we're going to blend all of the onions, and I'll put a few in to start. It, but that is the consistency. So for 10 pounds, we do 1 egg per pound. So when I open up the eggs, it says "Good morning, beautiful" over here. So Rivka, Malka, and I have a tradition where we have a coffee date every Shabbos and Yom Tov morning, and we have a special set of mugs. One says "Morning Beautiful," one says "Morning Handsome," and we have our coffee. That we only use those mugs for these coffee dates, and it's very special to us. We've had them for years, and we're actually working on duplicating that set in a little bit of a different way, and then we will be offering it to everyone who wants to be part of the movement of having coffee dates and with your spouse. We're going to put all the spices in. So this is a very scary thing because it actually says 6 handfuls of salt, and I always question it, but the bottom line is that it is actually 6 handfuls. You don't use the biggest handfuls, but it's 6 handfuls. I'll show you what I mean. That's 1. 6. I hope that didn't give you conniptions. It definitely gives me conniptions. But it is what it is. That's the recipe. And now for the black pepper, we do 2.5 handfuls. If you want it less peppery, then do it less. It's always a balance because some people don't want it peppery and some people do. So it just is what it is, however you want to make it. That's salt and pepper, and now we're going to do some sugar. Sugar, the handfuls are bigger, so it's kind of like filling it up more, even letting it overflow, and we do 14. That's 2, 14. And I don't have it right now, but usually I put in like maybe a spoon of baking powder to make it more fluffy, but you really don't need it. It's something I made up. My mother didn't tell me about that. And that's it. So we're just going to mix this. now it looks like that. That's the onions and all the eggs and spices. And now we get the fish. Moving it closer for a better view, and we're just going to mix this. And now it looks like that. And now we get the fish. This is 10 pounds of whitefish and pike. 5 pounds of whitefish, 5 pounds of pike, and they are mixed together already by the store. You want to tell them to do that, and you also want to tell them to make it depending on whether you're freezing it or not freezing it. If you're freezing it, you want to make them in 2-pound packages because you want it to be able to defrost quicker. It's very difficult to mix it, especially since you mix sometimes by hand, if it's freezing cold and you don't want to wait too long for it to defrost. So then I would do 2-pound packages. If you're just picking it up from the store, freshly ground, they could put it all into one bag, a 10-pound bag, because you just take it and put it into the pot and then you start mixing. So it really is dependent on what you do. That's kind of a close look at it. You just put it in. I pour it in. If there's a little juice in there, it doesn't matter if it goes in. You don't have to get rid of the juice before you put it in. Okay, so now we're at a lower table. This year I bought a special spoon to mix the gefilte fish in with because it is quite difficult to mix and you need something strong. I start with the spoon and then I go to the hand mixing. Okay, so here we have a 1-pound box of shmura matzah meal. We end up using the whole thing, but I start off with putting about 3/4 in and then I add in the rest at the end. Don't want big pieces because you want all the ingredients to mix nicely with, to have everything in all places. So you don't want to have a solid piece of fish anywhere. It's very painful when it's frozen using just your hands. So try to make sure it's not frozen like what I'm dealing with over here. Just make sure that you get all parts of the pot. Nothing ends up at the bottom that didn't mix into the fish. You don't want to have that. Okay, it's thick, very sticky, like sticks onto my hand, but it's fine consistency to make the balls, and should go fine. Okay, in the final step, we are going to make the gefilte fish balls, put them in here. This has been boiling, and I turned it down, but right now, I'm going going to turn it up again because we're going to be putting a lot of cold gefilte fish into it. The size of the bowls, they're all different sizes. This is a little bit on the small side, but decide however you want to do it. This recipe came from my mother. The year is now 2025, and it's the first year without my mother in this world, and it's very special to be able to continue her gefilte fish recipe, which we grew up with. I've made changes to it, but it basically is hers. It's actually not hers. It supposedly came from Rebbetzin Freifeld. That's Rabbi Shlomo Freifeld's first wife, the Rebbetzin that I grew up with, and she was a very special, angelic woman. She really loved all of the kids that were around her. We used to go to the bungalow colony, the Sh'or Yoshuv bungalow colony, during the summers in upstate New York, and she made me a special blue knit yarmulke with my name on it. I wish I had it, but I did wear it for a long time. It was very special. My mother loved Shabbos and Yom Tov. She really ran the table. She would sit at the head of the table after my parents got divorced, and she was like a rebbe, sitting up there with her tish. She would have a big pile of books, a big pile of Sfarim next to her, and it could be very diverse, but it was mainly Hasidic Sfarim from all different Rebbes, and also Rav Dessler. She was very intellectual, so she read her Rav Dessler's Sfarim were very, very worn out. She was so intellectual, that's really how she became, really religious, because she went to Queens College, and in Queens College she had religious guys in her class, maybe a philosophy class, and she started asking them questions that she was thinking about. One of them ended up telling her to go speak with the Cohns. That was Aaron David and Batya Cohn, who were in Sh'or Yoshuv. From there, my mother really started learning a lot of Torah, and ended up in the Sh'or Yoshuv seminary, which was called, I think, it was Desha, unless I'm mixing that up with the bungalow colony. But she became really, really close to Hashem, and she brought her whole family in the same direction also. Her parents, her sister Sarah Leah, who ended up marrying Shmuel Brazil, that's Rabbi Shmuel Brazil, the one that makes up all the songs that we sing. Not all, but many. And also her sister Shira, who ended up marrying a Sh'or Yoshuv guy named Shaya Elephant. So this was all due to my mother asking questions and wanting truth, looking for truth. Her high school yearbook had a piece of writing from her that I don't know how they allowed it into the yearbook, but basically the piece was questioning everything about the school system and really trashing it. That's why I don't know why they allowed it, but she decided at some point in high school that any class that she felt she wasn't learning from, she just didn't go to. So the problem was that the last class was a class that she did learn things from. So she had to stay in school. She stayed in school just to go to the last class, which proves the point that she wasn't trying to get out of school. She just wanted to learn. The writing was on an intellectual level that, generally kids in high school do not have. But she was on that level. So I think about my mother as I make these gefilte fish balls. I'm sure she's here watching with me making it. So her table, the table that I grew up in, was, as the meal went on, more and more people would come. Even, like regular married people from town and, just regular, all sorts of people came. But I'm saying it wasn't just like people who, were, suffering or whatever it was. It was just like all sorts of people. And she would bring up topics to get people to think. She would want people to think on their own. So we grew up like just questioning everything because of my mother. It wasn't so much about getting an answer, it was more about the idea of being open to question yourself, question all your beliefs, question anything. Question anything. Don't take anything for granted. That's really what she was trying to get us to see, and it really didn't matter what the answer was. But she was a breath of fresh air. People would just come to be around her. She was someone that was able to look at you, and within 5 minutes she saw right through you, knew everything about you. There's a reason why her kids are such amazing therapists. She didn't have the best boundaries. It was pretty funny. Sometimes her clients would come to the front door. But she had her own style, and it worked. And she became very close friends with clients after she finished working with them. That happened a number of times. There's rules, and then there's my mother, who just did her own thing. In the last part of her life, she moved from Paraguay to Eretz Yisrael. She went to Israel for a year, like a sabbatical, and then she stayed for 10 years until she got sick and came to move in with us in Baltimore. But she was deeply in love with Israel. Nothing could stop her besides getting really sick from staying there. Everyone got to know her in the old city. She was full of color and good things to say, and her depth was beyond. She could also put on anything and make it look good, which it's not so easy to do, especially since she got a lot of her stuff from the thrift shop. That's pretty incredible. I'm gonna close up the pot and then let it boil for 2 hours. I'll wait till it has a full boil, and then after that turn it down to a low boil, but it's got to be boiling, and let that go for 2 hours. This pot just boiled for 2 hours, and actually in the middle, Malka came in and took some, and she said it was amazing. So, and I had a little bite. It did come out really, really good. And we are gonna transfer it over into 2 of these guys. This is 1.6 gallon, 6 liter Rubbermaid container. And then the second one is 2.2 gallon Rubbermaid container, 2.2. So it usually takes 2 of them to fill up one recipe. we also put in the juice to the containers, but I actually do want to show you what this looks like. So far there are 29 gefilte fish balls. So I put in 4 carrots. I'll put 2 into each, but I don't serve them with carrots. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't, but just what I do. I don't serve them with the carrots or the onions. They just get served plain. Part of the reason I don't do the bones and the heads is because at the bottom, I don't want any bones mixed into the fish accidentally. And this is just like dealing with all good stuff that you could eat. What I do next is just pour this into here. It doesn't have to cover it, but let's say up to here, it keeps it nice and fresh and juicy. Okay, I put all of it in this time. Here's a close-up of it. It has pieces on top just from what I just poured in. But this is the recipe.